Okay, you guys are live, so we're live.
Running,
We're live.
lines are on clear. So, we're live now.
Yeah, we're live now.
Hello, everybody. This is David Zier. I am here at the America First Warehouse. Thank you for joining us today. There's so many exciting things going on at the warehouse, big events, so we're going to get into that. And we have Teresa with us. How are you, Teresa?
Good morning. I'm good, thank you.
Good. Teresa's keeping it all together on social media. And Nick Giordano, host of the PAS Report. And also, you're with Campus Reform, right?
Yes, I am.
So you see Nick everywhere.
Too, we just got to see him at the Queensville Republican Club getting an award not too long
Yep.
ago.
Yes.
Congratulations
Good
again.
honor. Thank
Nice
you.
to be there.
Yes, and you had me on as a guest yesterday.
I did.
So that'll air in a week or so,
That's-
and you'll probably be thrown off the air in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to
All
it.
right.
Cancel culture.
But there's so many hot issues going on here. If anyone doesn't know who I am, I'm David Zier. I'm with Real America's Voice News. In addition to the America First Warehouse, I host a show, Breaking Point. I'm a correspondent in the field for the network and shows like The War Room, American Sunrise, and others across the network. So we're on the ground. We are interacting with real American voices around the country. We share a perspective of people who are getting beat up every day. And you know, the MAGA bunch is really just small business owners and people working for a living who never ask for anything. And they're tired of being told they're the bad people for being the good people. And the America First Warehouse mission is to bring that message home and to make sure that America is put first in the agenda for our country. And Joe the Box from the warehouse and all the great staff here put together so many wonderful events. We're going to get into some of those events. Teresa, why don't you tell us what's going on in the next few
Okay,
weeks?
we got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So tonight we have movie night. The doors open at 7. The movie starts at 7:30, and we're featuring "Let My People Go," and it's a film by Dr. David Clements. Sunday, the Motor Club is our newest expansion of the America First Warehouse, and that's for all the car enthusiasts. It's every Sunday, 7:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. for cars and coffee. And if you have any questions or need more info, you can reach us at the Motor Club at theamericafirstwarehouse.com. We have a huge rally this Sunday in Belmore, train station at 12:30 p.m. Andrew Giuliani is our keynote speaker. We have a great lineup. And then we'll be caravanning with the flags up here to the America First Motor Club for a barbecue. This Wednesday, next coming Wednesday, the 27th, we have the America First Warehouse Lecture Series, which will be hosted by you with special guest David Bratt. If you want to give some more info.
Yeah,
you can-
Dave Bratt, who defeated Eric Cantor, the only person to ever defeat a sitting majority leader in the House of Representatives, which was since 1880 or so. Back in 2014, Dave Bratt beat Eric Cantor without a lot of money in a grassroots Tea Party-style campaign. Now he's the Dean of Business at Liberty University. He's extraordinary. He's probably our nation's top economist who's telling the truth about the numbers here and maintains that we have not created any American jobs in the last 3 years. They're all foreign workers. And people who did get extra jobs, they're second and third jobs here. Everywhere I go in the country, I meet people, Uber drivers, they're like accountants during the day, and they have to drive an Uber at night to survive because of inflation. There's a lot of part-time jobs, but there really isn't job growth in this country. And the jobs that were gained were replacing jobs pre-COVID. But Dave Bratt is awesome. We're going to have him here on Wednesday night, so come join us at the America First Warehouse. There's so many hot issues going on right now. I wanted to start off by talking about the 2nd District here, a congressional district. It is Shannon Stevens trying to run a primary
Ooh, we did that.
against Andrew Garbarino. And Shannon Stevens is concerned because they're not really sharing the data on where the new district lines
Yeah.
are to her. And, the parties, Democrat and Republican, both try to box out challengers to the incumbent and make it difficult for primary challengers to get on the ballot. And she needs X amount of signatures, but
by the
feels
4th, right? April 4th?
I think it's the first, maybe, but maybe
Okay.
there's like 2 deadlines. I think the first is the first one. I don't know if it gets.
That was a district that I helped run a campaign, and it is rough.
Right.
It's rough.
And you guys didn't. You guys did pretty well.
We did
you
great
got 39%.
for grassroots, insurgent patriot candidate coming in for
Yeah.
America First. It was actually great.
And Andrew
proud of it.
Garbarino voted for the J6 committee. He lost
Complete
a lot
rhino.
of MAGA support. He's not a Trump guy. Brought a lot of money to the district here, though, for sewers and stuff like that on Long Island. But ideologically opposed, I am, to where he stands. But I wanted to talk about that. So these district lines changed. But she could go out and get signatures, and then all of a sudden they knock it out. Because the game is the
Good old
party in power
gerrymandering, right?
to knock out so you have to get like 3,000 signatures if you only need 1,200.
Yes.
Because they're going to knock them out.
Yeah.
And she feels it's unconstitutional, and she's an attorney. You have any insight on that?
Well, the petitions are always difficult if you don't have the party apparatus supporting you. If you have the
Yeah,
party
and they got all the
apparatus, you got the
committeemen.
bodies,
Yep.
Yeah.
and you get the petitions done. Especially, it makes it even more difficult where you don't know what the boundary lines are going to be.
Yeah.
Because the signatures you get may be invalidated based on those boundary lines. Listen, anytime incumbents are running, a lot of times they're going to win 85%. That's their record. And so when you're challenging incumbents, it's very difficult. It's not an easy thing to do, and I respect anyone that tries to do it. However, she has her work cut out for
You
her.
need a machine.
And if you look at New York State and the way that our boundaries have been drawn over the last several years,
Yeah.
it's been absolute corruption. I mean, if you look at what Empress Hochul, she's not a governor, she's an empress, you had the bipartisan commission putting out the boundaries. She threw it out, tried to
right.
create her own. The court invalidated it. They
Right.
put a law, they put a ballot initiative down. New Yorkers overwhelmingly said, no, we don't want it going through the legislative body,
Yeah,
essentially.
the RNC sued, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah.
And yet she's disregarding it again, redrawing the boundaries the way they
So
see fit.
She feels that she has a legal grounding here in a case because nobody's sharing the lines with her, even at the state
Well,
level.
she does have a case. I mean, the reality is anyone should be able to go online and see what the district boundaries
Yeah.
are. This shouldn't be a secret. It shouldn't be hidden from a candidate, but it shouldn't be hidden from the public
No,
either.
it's
I
all
mean,
by design.
the public
is.
needs to know what congressional district they're sitting in.
Yeah.
And the fact that we don't know, and the election, the primaries are what, 3 months away? 3 months away. And then you have a general election coming up. I mean, it's completely ridiculous.
And
Yeah.
what they did last time to us in District 2 was when they did redistrict, you go out and get all your signatures. Those got thrown out, and we had to start again. It's a fortune.
Yeah.
It's a fortune. And I've been talking to Shannon Stevens, campaign manager, and the signatures are due the day they're willing to put the maps out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all by design.
Oh,
and I hope
absolutely.
because she's a lawyer, she can fight this because it really is. It's just not fair. And
Yeah.
the lines they draw look like a child scribbled through a sheet of paper.
Oh, that's the way they always do it.
Massapequa is a all red town,
Yeah.
and they want to go get signatures in Massapequa, but you don't know where you're walking. It's a waste of time if you don't
And
know
I
where
want to
you're
know what
walking.
district I'm in. I
And you
was in
should.
District 1, and the last time they did redistricting, they moved me to District 2. So now am I going back to District 1? I'd like to know.
Potentially you could, and that's exactly what happened in 2022.
Yep.
People were showing. I was getting phone calls on election day from our people that wanted to vote for our candidate, and they were showing up at schools and they were getting turned away. There was no signage outside. I mean, it's really all by design at this point.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's the way it's been for a really long time, but it's getting worse.
And people are waking up.
It's very hard. It's very hard. People, I think, are apathetic. They're not coming to the polls, and they feel like their vote doesn't count. So it's
Well, I just
definitely
want
a
to say
battle.
something on that because I think that's essential. If we look at the New York City and the election that they had in November of 2023 for the city council,
Yeah,
only 7% of residents turned out to vote. That's it.
I know.
And so my thing for Republicans is you got to start reaching all those disaffected voters that have just dropped out of the system. They don't go vote. They're so just frustrated with everything.
But like in the city, they go like 85% for the Democrats, so it's even more discouraging
Yes,
for
it
a
is.
Republican to come out and vote.
But it
you
should
know.
be encouraging that
I
only
know.
7% are coming out to vote. That tells you, I mean, there's not a single person I could find that's happy with the current conditions
No.
in New York City. And if Republicans start getting people that haven't voted in several election cycles, if they get
Yeah.
them out to the polls, they win.
I worked with some city council candidates in the last set of elections, and the turnout was abysmal, really abysmal.
Well, that's when we need to
yeah.
do grassroots stuff. Like in 2022, when Bruce Blakeman was running in Nassau County, and even when Trump ran in 2020, my dad hadn't voted since Nixon.
Yeah.
And I was like, Dad, sorry, Dad, if you're watching. But and I know I got 10 people to vote for Bruce Blakeman who were not going to go vote. They said, I don't vote in the county stuff. I don't care. I only care about president. And it was me educating them, and really my passion, I think, that I know for a fact I got 10 people to vote for Blakeman who would have not voted.
Speaking of,
But if all of us did that, right?
Yeah.
If all of us could get 10 people.
well, speaking of Bruce Blakeman, I took a bold stance about men participating in women's sports, and now Caitlyn Jenner
Yeah, she
came out.
came to my county
uh,
list this week.
Supporting Bruce Blakeman's decision. So what do you say about that?
Well, I mean, enough's enough. We got to stop pretending here and saying that there's no difference between men and women. I don't care if someone's over the age of 18; they could identify as whatever the hell they want. That doesn't matter to me. But when you're saying that men and boys can play in girls' sports, that's disgraceful. It's shameful. These are things that we shouldn't even have to waste our time
No.
debating.
Yeah.
And yet here we are. We got such pressing issues in this country, and yet we have to sit there and focus our arguments and resources on issues that
Well,
shouldn't be
they're
issues at
destroying
all.
generations
Yes.
of children and their hopes and aspirations. Riley Gaines let a trans activist have it on the Piers
Yeah.
Morgan show. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see
It
it,
was
but I want to get her
exceptional.
here. I'm trying to reach
And
out to her people.
That's great. That would
Yeah.
be wonderful, because she says that there's a natural 10 to 12% outperformance by men over women in these sports. So you
course.
can't make up for that.
No,
you
no
have to
way.
have two categories of competition, right?
I mean, men are stronger. I don't know why it's like such a complicated. Listen, I have a 15-year-old daughter. I have 3 boys and a girl, and I'm in Nassau, and I'm grateful for Bruce Blakeman. My daughter, they play sports. I would go crazy if there was a boy in my daughter's bathroom in the school. I mean, we fought that heavily in
Oh, I have
2022.
video today of, I don't know if you saw the Planet
Planet
Fitness
Fitness,
video.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
But the guy shaving in sync, I got pictures of that, but I have another picture of a guy taking his daughter to a restroom in like a park, and there's a guy in there.
no way.
This has got to stop. And then people are complaining to Planet Fitness about this, and they're not, the managers of the Planet Fitnesses are not allowed to use that as a reason on their complaint form that there's men in the women's
Nope.
bathrooms.
No,
And they
it's
actually made
completely ridiculous.
the lady who took the film, she's no longer allowed to be a Planet Fitness member. I was just going to restart up my membership again. I was so frustrated after COVID, and then I said, you know what? Screw Planet Fitness.
So let's get into, before we get into more serious stuff, I just wanted to go over, I did a hit this morning on American Sunrise about comedy, and my father took me to see all the greats: David Brenner, Joan Rivers, Rodney Dangerfield, Jackie Mason, George Carlin,
Good
Eddie
stuff.
Murphy, you name it, and they were no holds barred. And I'll never forget when Don Rickles pulled me up on stage, said, how
Oh.
old are you? And I said, 15. He said, sit down, you fat little Mexican bastard.
Oh,
And started hitting me with the mic. But everybody laughed their butts off.
because it was entertainment.
It's entertainment. People, it was a social mirror. They used to, George Carlin and Lenny Bruce, right, goes on the Steve Allen show and was blasting segregationists, gets arrested for reviews. Richard Pryor grew up in a brothel. His father was a pimp, but still had a sense of humor about everything that's going on. So, and Nipsey Russell said in the 1967 on Laugh-In, I think, that don't make fun of the Italians because you'll wake up with a mouthful of cement. And he said, we didn't believe in Santa Claus. Nipsey Russell, black comedian, says, we didn't believe in Santa Claus because nobody would picture a white guy riding on a reindeer in Harlem after midnight. And that was on the Dick Clark show
That's
in
great.
the 70s. So why can't we talk about this stuff anymore?
Well, we can.
We can.
I mean, if
The
you-
normal people can, right?
If you look at it, the top comedians today, not a single one of them are woke. The ones that are filling the audiences,
Yeah.
they're the ones that just go and they have no boundaries. They are people that they just say what's on their mind. The Dave Chappelle's, the Shane
Yeah.
Gillis,
Bert Kreischer.
they go and they fill seats.
So this came out of
Woke comedy isn't comedy.
Howie Mandel made comments that, people are tired with the woke culture in comedy.
They are. I
Yeah.
mean, look at Jerry Seinfeld. He won't even go to a college campus anymore because there's
Probably
just
get
he
booed
says
off-
it's a
yeah.
miserable experience.
Oh, him going to the
And the
college.
college campuses in the 70s were the places where you could do risky material. Now
Absolutely.
it's the opposite because everybody has helicopter moms and they want to
yeah.
cry in a corner with a safety pin.
It's crazy to me.
I
When
don't
you-
get it either.
When you look at the comedians of today and they try and go to this woke nonsense, you look at late night TV, they are the most unfunny,
Oh,
unserious
God.
people. And I'll tell you where it died. I could pinpoint the exact time it died.
Yeah.
When, what's his name? Colbert did that vaccine
Oh,
skit
God.
thing.
I agree.
That was just
awful.
The
cringy.
dancing needles?
Yeah, it was just cringy.
Awful.
And it was just like, that's when comedy died at the late night shows.
And even Kathy Griffin, and I'll touch on this quick before we get to the other stuff later.
Yeah.
She's going to be at the Paramount on Sunday,
Wow, she was never funny.
and everyone's very upset about the bloody Trump head that that was her way of trying to be humorous, which was absolutely disgusting. So people are going there to protest her this Sunday at the Paramount, and it's just it's just classless, unfunny, like you said. I don't understand it.
But she was funny. I saw her at the Garden years ago at the Felt Forum, and she was making fun of gays, and she was like, she
before
was
she
kind of
went woke.
risque, but then she totally
They
like.
go woke, and that's
Yeah,
it.
I guess she married Rosie O'Donnell or something,
Oh.
didn't she? I don't know
What
what
the
she
heck's
did.
going on with
That's
them? I
just
don't.
nasty, man.
all
Maybe
of it.
I got my
You just gave me a
comedians mixed
visual.
up.
Gross.
Rosie O'Donnell is my wife's cousin, by the way.
Oh
distant
boy.
cousin. Yeah.
Okay. So we won't say too much about.
Yeah,
Rosie.
no, we
Do
can't.
you invite her
we
over
can't
to
do
the
it.
Sunday
no,
dinners?
No, not at all.
I do like Roseanne Barr these days, though. I wasn't a huge fan until more recently. I didn't know she was such a
Yeah,
patriot.
she's
Really,
been active on RAV.
I'd love to get her here too. Okay, so
Yeah,
put the
she's
word in.
been active on Real America's Voice for some time.
She
and,
would be awesome here.
yeah, and she kicks people off the set. She
It's
just
amazing.
kicked somebody off her show for being a total lib. It was somebody very famous.
I
can't
love that.
remember.
Real stuff.
All right, serious business. Donald Trump. So many things. Federal cases falling apart. Fannie Willis, new decision to entertain going to the Court of Appeals in Trump's favor to kick her off. What do you think? Should they keep her on? Just
I
think
don't
she's
know.
so
You might want to
stupid?
keep her on because when this case goes to trial, it's just going to completely collapse. I mean, first of all, I don't even know how they're going to get it to trial. You're talking about 19 criminal defendants that she wants to try at the same exact time. That's like an impossibility.
Yeah.
But the case was always a loser, right from the beginning. The whole basis of the case was that Trump was trying to make up votes when that turned out not to be true.
And
He
that
said,
was one of
"Find
the
me
charges that were
votes."
dropped.
Correct.
One of the three charges that were dropped.
6
against
charges
Trump.
that were
well,
dropped.
3 against Trump.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when we're looking at the whole Georgia case, the Georgia case is done, in my opinion. I don't see it getting off the ground. It's definitely not going to trial anytime before the election, and I don't think it ever goes to trial. So I think that case is done.
Did you see Fannie Willis the other day? She has a star witness in an alleged wheelman. Star
Oh, very
witness in
little
a
bit, yes.
trial.
I did see
and the
something on
guy
that.
was too high to
Yep.
testify.
I mean,
Is she the worst
She's the
district
worst.
attorney ever?
I mean, I never want anything to happen to Trump, but I kind of wanted him to go. I think he has some irrefutable election evidence that he could have presented
Yeah.
that were classified, and I think he would have won. But it's a witch hunt. It's disgusting. I can't. It's just lawfare. I don't know. It's scary. I don't. If
Well, there's no doubt
they
about
could
it.
do that to a former president, all of us can be fair game for
To
that.
do that to any American, would
Anyone,
be
but imagine if
horrible,
you could
and
do it to
that's-
the rest of us are.
Well,
you know,
they're coming for us, and I have a
They sure
guest
are.
on my show tomorrow that I wanted to talk about that. But you also had Judge Aileen Cannon in the classified docs case, maybe giving a crushing blow to Jack Smith. Can you comment on that?
Well, again, this is a case that is very difficult. I mean, you have a president that had classified information, left office, the GAO, the GSA, the Government Services Administration, packed up the boxes. They're the ones that brought everything to Mar-a-Lago. And the question is, does a president have the ability to declassify documents? And everyone knows he does. And then you ask, well, what's the process? What is the process of declassification? There is no formal process that has ever been developed. It's not like you fill out Form 362 and you submit it and it's declassified. And that's what this judge is saying, that, Jack Smith has to prove that there's some type of formal process in place. And then you look at the documents case with Trump, he leaves office, and it's within a year or two. And then you look at Joe Biden, who had documents for 40 years. Not only did he have documents for 40 years, these documents were brought in, they were brought out of places,
Unsecured.
they were
Right.
moved all over.
Yep.
And we're supposed to believe that magically, 2 days before there's supposed to be a red wave where Republicans take Congress, they stumbled on these and contacted the
I
Department
think
of
the
Justice.
whole
It was
raid-
all a ruse.
the raid.
The whole raid on Mar-a-Lago was projection because they knew the stuff with Biden was coming down the pipe.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But recently, Cannon agreed to entertain the motion to dismiss from the Trump team, which basically forces testimony now that Jack Smith can't use later because of double jeopardy issues.
Yes. And, well, I think that this is another case. First of all, if it did go to trial, it's Florida, so you're going to find some Trump-sympathetic jury members. But this case I didn't see as that threatening to Trump. And I do think that if it doesn't get dismissed, it will not go off before the election. I think there's
I
too
don't
much
think there's
there.
any doubt about
The most
that.
dangerous case to Trump is the January 6th case in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
because it's in Washington,
yeah.
No,
D.C.
forget it.
That's
They're
the
out
most
for blood.
dangerous. And the New York City case is falling apart too, right? We have Michael Cohen, the star witness that Alvin Bragg
Perjuring
had,
himself
and
on
the
the
former
stand.
judge from this last case said
Right.
he perjured himself.
yep,
That
perjury.
now he's singing a different tune. So he may be going down on perjury charges again,
And he's the star witness.
and he doesn't have any credibility. How does the case?
Yeah.
You had Alvin Bragg that did legal jujitsu. Now the feds just released that 75,000 pages of documents.
Yeah.
Don't forget
Took a year.
the
to get
Federal
him.
Elections Commission and the Southern District of New York both investigated this.
Yeah.
Said there's nothing there to
Alvin
prosecute
Bragg
him
did
with.
too.
Correct.
Right.
Well, it wasn't Alvin Bragg. It was
Cyrus Vance.
Cyrus Vance before Alvin Bragg, and said
Yeah.
there was nothing there. It's not worth the case. And so this case, it's another one that I don't see how it goes to trial. Now it's New York, so they try and, you know,
Well,
when you look
Hochul's
at Alvin
handpicked
Bragg and
judges.
Letitia James, you know,
Yeah, so it's definitely falling apart across the board in favor of Trump. But the J6 case, I think, you know what, let him convict him because he'll just
He'll
run
win.
away with the election.
That's right.
Because
well,
you
even
know,
that
people-
case,
people
I don't,
see-
I don't see how that case gets
I
off
don't think
the
it
ground
happens before the
before the
election.
election.
Yeah.
You still have the Supreme Court. They're going to hear the immunity part to it. Once they hear that immunity part and
So
rule
when
on
is that decision coming?
well, the immunity arguments go mid-April, and then the decision comes in June.
Yeah.
However, once they do that and rule on that, then there's going to be a floodgate of more Trump motions.
And Jack Smith opposed to that because he didn't want it to be delayed again, right?
Yeah, he wanted to speed this thing up.
Yeah.
And then you have the Fisher January 6th case before the Supreme Court,
Yep.
where if they rule in favor of Fisher, you're going to see several charges against Trump get dismissed automatically in that case.
Yeah.
So when you look at it, the cases are falling apart, but it doesn't mean they're not dangerous, though.
So,
Of course.
Teresa, yeah, go.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's by design, like what you said before. Should we even have to be worrying about the transgenders? All of Trump's cases, it's just a distraction, I think, to keep look here, look there, look here, look there. Even this week, they were in Congress, right, with Bob Alinsky and all the stuff
He
with
was
the,
fantastic.
with the Bidens. So there's like so many places to look, and I think that's all part of this too. It's just to cause mass confusion and pin us against each other, division.
So what do you think? So the CIA, which is not supposed to be active in domestic activities, has bomb-sniffing dogs on the ground, which I think was a ruse because they knew that there were fake bombs going to be planted at the RNC and DNC that day of January 6th. And then there's these guys got permission to build the gallows to hang Pence. And I've covered 100 Trump rallies around the country. I've never seen anything like that Well, those weren't Trump supporters building those gallows, right?
Well, I usually don't say it nationally or publicly, I should say, but I was there that day,
Yeah.
so I can speak a lot on what happened and what really didn't happen. It was all I mean, if you go back and look back into any of that, the CIA was involved, the FBI was involved. Pelosi could have, gotten the National Guard to stop it. Her daughter was doing a documentary. I mean, it's evident everything was.
Yeah, there's no doubt about
I
it.
mean, I have friends. I actually lost a friend who kept telling me what she saw on the TV, and I'm like, I was there. That's not what happened. It was one of the best, most peaceful, beautiful times with all the Patriots and all the years I've been doing this until the other side, infiltrated.
Well, I brought it up because a lot of stuff is unraveling with this, and we know that John Sullivan knew that this was going to happen. He bragged about it entering the
did.
Capitol. He says to the CNN girl, I told you this was going to happen. He knew about it in advance, but Lieutenant Byrd's testimony was so, his radio call. He says on the radio call that shots fired, and he was being shot out, and then, it was all a lie.
It was a
there
lie.
were no shots
We
fired.
saw this. We
He
see the
fired
footage.
first, right?
They cold-blooded murdered Ashley Babbitt.
So is there going to be any vindication for the J6ers?
Well, no, because optics and the media narratives are the ones that prevail. And I think that when we look at the January 6th committee, I mean, each one of them should be hauled before Congress and have to testify under perjury. Because what did we find out in the last couple of weeks? Well, we found out that Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony was all lie.
Garbage.
But not only was it garbage, The January 6th committee knew it was garbage literally right then and there because they spoke to Secret Service and Secret Service agents testified.
And then she sat in
whole
the room
idea-
alone
Correct.
with Liz Cheney,
Yes.
right? Coaching her on what to
Correct.
say, right?
And the lawyer's now, her lawyer's in trouble. He may be disbarred as a lawyer. I believe there's a case in Georgia pending against him. But this is a really big deal because why are we learning about this now? Why didn't we learn about this when they did the primetime Hollywood J6 events?
That's right.
And then you look at the idea of Trump authorizing National Guard troops.
Yeah.
Well, the January 6th committee said, no, it's all a lie. He never authorized it.
Cash Patel's been maintaining for a year and a half that.
And how about we
Well,
heard
it's
him?
not only that he's
He
been
had proof.
maintaining, we have emails
Now you
that
have the proof.
explicitly state it. And so why did the January 6th committee not release these emails? And the real question is, what else is there that we don't know that the January 6th committee knew
Oh,
that's
I think
exculpatory?
there's a lot.
Well, it's speculative, but if they hid these two things for us,
no
which if you
doubt.
really look at it, I mean, the Secret Service story was inconsequential. It really didn't matter. But if they hid something
Right.
that small from
But
us,
it was all the pieces. Like even
Imagine.
what they did to Trump when we heard him say march peacefully and patriotically to the
exactly
Capitol,
what he said.
and they cut it. They took it off of Twitter at the time. They cut it everywhere, and they just manipulated it to look like he was inciting something that absolutely didn't happen.
There's no doubt that J6 was a setup to prevent the 147 senators and congressmen from wanting to decertify the vote and send it back
That's right.
to the states.
That's why I went there.
under
But
the Constitution.
but there are millions of people though that know the
convinced of
truth
that.
from that day.
Well, I think you
Yep.
know, a lot of people in the United States are not informed and they're disinterested and they see the buzz in the headline and they accept it, right?
yeah, listen, most Americans don't pay attention to politics at all. Again, look at our voter turnout. Number one is terrible out of all the countries that exist out there that have free and fair elections. Voter turnout's terrible. Most Americans, if you look at all the news media channels, the ratings, I mean, we're a country of 350 million people. The 24/7 news networks combined, Fox News obviously dominates, but the ratings are what, 5-6 million people?
Yeah.
That's nothing in our country. And so you look at it, most people don't care. They're living their lives, and that's part of the problem. Because when everything hits the fan and they lose every single luxury that they enjoy today,
Yes, that's
then they're
right.
going to say, oh, I wish I got involved. I wish I paid attention. But that's a big part of the problem. I think too often we overestimate how engaged the American people are, and time again, we see how disengaged they really are,
Yeah.
but we ignore that evidence.
Nick, is that
Sure.
number from the last couple of years? Like, do you think it's because they're trying to now to go to alternative? Like, I watch more podcasts and, Real America's Voice and, alternative.
Well,
than
there's
any-
some that go to alternative, but most people don't. And this is what we see on Twitter, right? Everyone thinks in the political world that on X, now it's X, they think, oh, it's all about politics. No, political conversations are only about 5% of Twitter. There's a whole other world that exists
I don't even
outside
think of that because
politics.
that's all I look at.
The streaming platforms, being at Real America's Voice News, our numbers are just extraordinary. Sometimes you get hundreds of millions of hits in
awesome.
a month. But what's going on is, Fox top shows get like 3.5 million at a clip. It was always CNN got 500,000, maybe 1 million, and a couple of shows on CNN were getting in the 2 million range. And
Now they
Mad
get
Al.
like 10,
Yeah.
15.
they just
They did it to themselves.
but I think they've been hurt more. MSNBC,
They
Fox
sure
has been
have.
hurt by streaming, like
They have.
and OAN and Newsmax and RAV and stuff. But I think the MSNBC and CNN have been hurt the most because people are turning it off.
They are.
Yeah, they are.
And I think it's a
Well,
shift. I think you have like that real left radical like CNN, MSNBC, and now I feel like Fox is in the middle.
Yeah.
And then you go to like Newsmax and RAB. So I feel like the people that are starting to wake up a little bit, they're starting to move. I'm hoping they come all the way over, but they're starting to move to Fox. I'm noticing a lot of people that I know that used to watch like CNN and MSNBC and all that are now watching Fox, and I'm like, all right, well that's better. But
Fox still does
start
have
watching
some-
RAV and Newsmax and stuff.
Even though Murdochs hate Trump, they still have
they have
huge
good
about
following.
following
5
over there.
personalities
They do.
that are MAGA and,
yes.
and Trumpers.
And once in a while, I will tune into them. I will, or if Nick's on.
But
or-
but it's not even, to me, it's not even who's on these networks or anything like that. I think that the scarier thing is that, it used to be
control.
you always watched the evening news broadcasts, right? You didn't have all these 900 channels and all
Yeah,
these
you were
streaming things.
hostage.
So everyone paid attention to the news when it was on. Newspapers were delivered to everyone's homes
Yep.
every morning. So even kids, teenagers would sit there while they were eating their breakfast, and they would look
Right,
at
take
read
your
the
silly
paper.
putty
They
and
may
do your
look at the
cartoon.
sports paper or something, the sports section. But I see it today where people are clueless. That they literally don't know and can't name simple things
But
like
they'll
the
tell
vice
you every
president or the
movie
Speaker of the House.
and every special on Netflix
That's
that
right.
ever aired.
And
Yeah.
TikTok videos and all that. But I will say I have actually defended, like, in 2020 when things started getting crazy and people waking up, I had friends that were getting so frustrated. Like, my mom and dad always have CNN on. And I was like, you know what? The older generation, that's how they got their news. It was free and fair. You know, it was more fair investigative journalism and fair news. And you really can't fault the people who are 80, 90 years old, high 70s, who that's how you got your news. And that's all they know.
Yeah.
You know, and this newfangled stuff they think
So
it
there's
is, they
good
don't
and
know,
bad.
you know?
You know, we have all these mediums now, but it's
Well,
good
I
and
think
bad.
all the mediums are actually good to have. The
Yeah.
more choices, the better. But the again, I think that the bigger issue is the people that aren't hearing any of these mediums. Then they're not paying attention to any of these mediums, nor do they care.
No.
And I think that's
I think
the
there's
bigger
a shift,
issue.
though. Do you think? I feel
No.
like not even
There's
the
not a
last 4
shift.
years.
As a matter of fact,
I don't know
I will
statistics.
guarantee you that we see lower voter turnout in this election than we did in 2020, and we may see lower turnout than we did in 2016.
I don't know about
Interesting.
that.
You're on the ground, so I'm curious. Like, that's interesting.
Well,
You-
I think there's a sea change in the black and Hispanic vote. If Trump even
do too.
picked up 7 points total between the two of them, and then maybe 2% more from the Jewish vote, he has a chance to have even a bigger margin.
But that
this
doesn't mean
time.
that increases voter turnout. It means he's taking votes away from
Well-
Biden, which is a good thing. Obviously, you want to see
I
that.
don't know. I think
But-
I think this year in this presidential election, I may be higher because people are hurting.
they're hurting.
You
Pockets
know,
are being affected.
It doesn't matter how much
People
you
are
make.
hurting, but here's the scariest thing.
Yeah.
That nearly half the country will still vote for President Biden, given the disaster of his administration.
Just because they're
And-
never
and-
Trumpers.
Well, they're either never Trumpers, they're staunch Democrats, or they're just completely ignorant. I mean, they're
Scary.
If you own a green energy company, I could understand you voting for Biden.
Okay, I get
it.
that.
If you're a wealthy elitist, I could understand you voting for Biden because your bottom line may be hit, but it's not really
Yeah, but
affecting
all
you.
the government workers.
If
the
you're
government
extremely
workers,
poor or a bureaucrat,
the union,
I can
the
understand
municipal
it.
unions, outside of New York.
But that shouldn't matter. Okay, so I'm part of a union,
yeah,
right? We got wage increases. They were pathetic. They were measly. And it doesn't make up for the cost of inflation. So I am
90%.
actually losing money. And when we look at it, our union is negotiating with mostly Democrats. And
90%. Right. Go finish it.
the last few contracts that we have gotten
Yeah.
were actually under Democrat administrations.
Yeah.
And it was Democrats that gave us the terrible contracts. I think a lot of union members are fed up and they're tired. I think union leadership is still firmly on the left. But as far as individual members, you could grab them, I think.
Well, you
when
got a job to do at work, Nick. Start telling all your colleagues that they got to go vote in November.
in 2016, 90% of the DOJ employees gave money to Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump.
Yeah.
90%.
Absolutely.
So there's definitely a culture of,
They're a different
Democrats
class of
in
bureaucrats.
bureaucracy.
So.
Yeah, and it's like elitism and all that stuff too. All right, so I wanted to talk about just a couple more issues here. So tomorrow on Breaking Point, 8 a.m. Eastern on Real America's Voice, I have great guests tomorrow. I got Lee Habib. You'd love this guy. I don't know if you know him from Our American Stories. He's a constitutional scholar, syndicated radio host who talks about the era of the 1770 and on, where John Adams wanted to make sure that the courts were not politicized against political opposition. And 250 years later, that rings true when it comes to Trump. Do you think Trump has a chance in the Eighth Amendment argument for cruel and unusual fines?
Absolutely. And when I look at it, I go back to the Supreme Court and that they ruled in a 9-0 decision telling Colorado they're insane if they think that they could just remove Trump's name from the ballot. I think that there are certain issues that do transcend politics. And I do think that there are Democrats. They despise Trump. But I've heard from several Democrats that what's happening to him is too much. It's abusive, and they don't like it. They're disgusted by it. So we are seeing a sea change. Now, when we look at the warnings of the Founding Fathers, they warned about
They did.
everything that's going on today. They warned about
It was
230
brilliance, right? It's
plus
almost like
years
they were
ago.
like psychic. They were brilliant. I always say that.
But they weren't brilliant. They had a lot of common sense, and they were
they
students of
experienced
history.
it.
They looked at how every previous government collapsed before the United States, and they took the lessons that were learned from those governments and tried to inoculate our system from it as best they could. That's why separation of powers, checks and balances. But as time has gone on, you know, you go through the FDR administration where we move into this concept of new federalism. The federal government becomes empowered. We're the ones that empower government. And unfortunately, and this is where I'll criticize conservatives and Republicans heavily, every American's knee-jerk reaction is when something goes wrong, we got to get the government involved. Hence the reason 9/11 happens, and we saw the largest expansion of government under Republican watch, and conservatives supported it, Republicans supported it. Unfortunately, these, especially the younger generations, have been conditioned to think that government is the solution. And, you know, going back to Reagan, government's always the problem. Always has been. The founding fathers warned about it.
Nietzsche said
And-
government is a monster.
Right,
It
and the
is, and
Constitution
we
was
have
created to restrict the
responsibilities.
government, not us. You know, people
Correct.
have that all wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot to digest there. I think the government expansion started really during the Clinton administration with Ruby Ridge. They could have arrested David Koresh jogging to the sheriff's office or the post office the day before.
Well, that's where you get into the administrative state
Yeah.
starting.
Right.
You know, and I do agree. That's where you start to see the administrative state, and now
Ilian
we're going to use the levers of
Gonzalez.
power. And I could argue that it goes actually back to the day that John F. Kennedy was assassinated,
thinking
that
that
we
too.
still don't have the records on what actually happened. You know, you would think that all these years later we would have it.
I think
but
Trump's supposed to release it, right?
he was, but he never did. And
Yet. I don't know what he's
according
waiting
to
for.
him, he said, well, if you were told what I was told,
Yeah,
you
you
wouldn't
wouldn't
release
wanna
it
see them
either.
either.
And that was interesting, that
Very
comment.
interesting.
But when we're looking at it, the build-out of the bureaucracy, then it transforming into the administrative state, has led us to this moment. We have an abusive, corrupt government that has been ideologically weaponized. And people better wake up, because it's very easy for a country to go from a free society into an authoritarian society. It takes real quick. It is much more difficult to go from an authoritarian society to a free society. And all we have to do is look at Venezuela.
Yeah, and all we have to do is look at 2020, right? The minute we said 2 weeks and everyone complied, and it was 2 more weeks, it was like a beta test. They knew right then they had us.
You know, it's all coming full circle here. I was in the Soviet Union at 16, and my sister was the only person to ever marry a Soviet citizen. I get him out through 7 steps of Soviet marriage. It was a really big deal across the globe when she got him over here. And we saw his family get persecuted for buying a toaster or having a refrigerator in their apartment. They'd send you to a mental home. They put you in the gulag. And God forbid you criticize the government. So in Russia, and now they throw you out of 20-story windows if you're political opposition, or poison you with polonium-210, or murder you in the street for being a journalist dissenting. But isn't that the same thing going on here with Donald Trump right now, taking out political opposition? We're just not killing them, we're just putting them in jail.
Absolutely. It's a new kind of way of doing it, modern day.
Well, it's destroy him mentally,
Right.
emotionally,
Financially
physically,
crush him.
financially, and you see it. The full weight, the full levers of power of government are coming down on this one person simply because they despise him. He goes against orthodoxy,
But he's
and
also
they don't like that.
handling with grace, and it's amazing to see someone like that. I mean, I have a stressful day, a week. I have to dye my hair the next week. I look like I have bags under my eyes. This man's like I'm like, oh, how does he do this? I need
Well,
a
there's not a
secret.
single Republican that would have been able
Nobody
to
could.
withstand this.
Nobody could have withstood.
And that's
withstood
what
that.
Republicans need to recognize, that they'll do it. I mean, listen, people are like, oh, well, Trump's right. No, they called McCain a racist. They called Bush a racist. They called Romney a racist. They will do this exact same playbook. Seeing how well and effective it's been against Trump, they will do it to the next Republican as well.
yeah, there's no
if they
doubt.
succeed in
Nobody's
this.
free
If
from it.
they succeed in this, they will use it.
But the difference is that Trump actually did help black people.
Well, and the
Tremendously.
difference is that Trump's actually pushing back. Most Republicans would have withered away. I mean, I don't think there's a single Republican that would have said, I'm going to run for re-election knowing that this is
Well,
coming
it
down the
comes
pike.
from I think the financial freedom he's had. He's not beholden.
Right, can't be bought.
Chuck Schumer's worth $70 million, making $170,000 a year.
I can't do that math. I don't understand that.
But Trump came in. he took a multi-billion-dollar hit by being president. Maybe more now, right? But he wasn't beholden. Maybe that's the difference.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but I also think it's his personality. He's a New Yorker. He's a Queens guy. He's a street fighter, and I think that that's the personality. You come after me. Listen, Trump's never been the one that ever will back down. He sees it as a sign of weakness if he backs down, and so if you take the fight to him, he's going to fight back. Whether he wins or loses, we're going to find out very soon.
Yeah,
I think
there's
so far
no doubt.
he's been winning pretty well.
Teresa, why don't you tell us how do people follow the America First Warehouse on all the social media platforms?
All right.
And get to the website and get
Yes,
involved.
I'll try to get very quick through the rest of this. So you can reach us at www.theamericafirstwarehouse.com. We have a bunch of tabs on top. You can go to our social accounts and follow us on all different social media platforms. Sometimes we're, well, I shouldn't say sometimes. We're very often shadow banned, so if you can please visit our website, like, share, and follow our content, that would help us out tremendously. And just to touch upon a couple more quick things, May 12th, General Flynn will be here. We are so excited. We have a live show and showing his movie with a Q&A at the end. We will have a raffle going for a free VIP ticket if you win the raffle. That'll be on the website later on today, the $200 value. On Thursday, April 11th, we're going to have a pilot show with Andrew Giuliani, our good friend. Those tickets will be available soon and more information. He's going to have a panel of guests with him, and David, you'll be one of them, right, hopefully?
Yep, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have Scott Lebedo and Michael Loftus, and we're going to have a great panel of people on our stage. Last night, we launched our 10-week Bible study here. It was awesome. If you want to join us, please jump on our website and you can sign up. Every Thursday, we have like a church service. It's prayer and worship at 7 p.m. And very quickly, we have these on our website. We have these awesome America Must Put God First mugs for sale. They're on the website for sale. And we have a new edition, America First Warehouse custom shirt, One Nation Under God. That will be on our website too. It's a fundraiser for the warehouse. We hope you jump on and buy some. We'll have them at the rally on Sunday.
Wonderful.
And that's it for me.
And where
with
do
that
they
stuff.
follow us on social media again?
So if they go to, we're on every platform now. If they go to our website and they go up to social accounts, it brings you to a landing page that you can follow all of us, all of
Okay.
our pages there.
All
Easiest
right,
way to do
good.
it.
Everybody get involved. I want to thank Nick Giordano, Teresa Halsridge.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of your insight today. It's going to be an exciting year. We got a lot of exciting programming coming out here at the
Very
warehouse.
excited.
Maybe we could do something one day here, you know. And Nick is very respected across the networks for his
Sure
insight.
is. Everybody knows Professor Giordano.
Yeah,
Yep,
right.
Yep. And the check's in the mail. I want to thank everybody for joining us today from the America First Warehouse. I'm David Zier, and have a great Palm
weekend.
Sunday
Yes.
weekend.
God bless.